Hi, I'm Mark Winters from RideMax. Today we're at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly how to get on Avatar Flight of Passage, even if you don't have a FastPass, without having to wait in a huge line. As the main developer of the RideMax planning tool, I've helped thousands of people spend less time in line at Disney World and Disneyland, and today I'm here to help you too. So let's get started. As almost everyone knows, Flight of Passage has the longest wait of any Disney World attraction, at least until the Star Wars area opens later this year. So my goal in this video is to show you exactly how to beat those lines. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll share 3 bonus tips that will help you navigate your way to Flight of Passage and also help you enjoy the ride once you're there. Okay, so at a high level, if you don't have a FastPass for Flight of Passage, you basically have 2 choices. You can either ride first thing in the morning, right at rope drop, or the last thing in the evening, right before the park closes. And you're probably thinking, well, why do I need a video to tell me how to do that? I'll just get there first thing in the morning or just before closing and I'll be fine, right? Well, the problem is, it's not quite as easy as it sounds. First of all, when it comes to rope drop, there's a lot of bad information out there. I've seen very popular websites recommending that you get to the park at least a half hour before it opens. But guess what? A half hour before the park opens, Disney's already letting people through the queue and onto the ride, at least during some of the more busy seasons of the year. So if you show up a half hour before the park opens and think you're going to be okay, forget it. You're already looking at probably a 90-minute wait, depending on the time of year. By the way, this also applies to extra magic hours. My brother-in-law was just here a couple of weeks ago visiting over spring break and decided to show up a half hour before the extra magic hours began. Guess what? By that time, he was already looking at an hour-and-a-half wait for the ride. So you may not think that waiting an hour-and-a-half for the most popular ride in all of Walt Disney World is all that bad. The problem is that it sets you up for longer waits for the rest of the day. I think everyone knows that the lines for all of the rides are shortest first thing in the morning, right? But if you spend the first 90 minutes the park is open standing in line for Avatar, by the time you finish that first ride, the rest of the lines in the park are long now too. So now you're going to wait a longer time for the Safari, for Everest, Dinosaur, so on. Okay, so if you decide to do Avatar first thing in the morning, right at rope drop, I'll tell you right now, you should plan on being here 90 minutes before the park opens. This is just a good rule of thumb. During maybe Christmas break or spring break, you might want to push that up by 15 minutes or so. But as a general rule of thumb, an hour-and-a-half will get you near the front of the line if you're trying to make rope drop. The thing that people don't often realize is that Disney will open the queue to Pandora like a half hour before the park is even scheduled to open for the day. So by 8:30, you're already walking up towards the queue if you get here early enough. So now you're probably wondering, okay, I get it, arrive 90 minutes before the park opens and we're set. Is that it? Well, as far as logistics go, yes, that's mostly all you need to do. And I know some of you are probably thinking, but wait, Mark, I thought you'd show me how to avoid waiting in a huge line, but now you're telling me to get to the park 90 minutes early? What's the difference between waiting 90 minutes in line and waiting 90 minutes for the park to open? Either way, I'm still waiting 90 minutes, right? Well, the difference is actually huge. First of all, since Disney normally opens Avatar 30 minutes before the park opens, you're waiting closer to an hour to ride, not the 90 minutes that it appears on paper. An hour may still seem like a lot, but it's much better than the 2 or 3 hour wait you might find later in the day. Plus, because the ride opens before the rest of the park does, if you've done this right, you'll be finished riding Avatar before the park is even officially open for the day. This leaves you with much shorter waits in the rest of the park. As I've already explained, if you had wasted the first 90 minutes after 9 a.m. standing in line for Avatar, you'd be looking at some much higher waits in the rest of the park at that point. So yes, arrive at the park 90 minutes before opening, get Avatar finished, and enjoy the rest of your day. I should also say that if you're staying at one of the Disney hotels, I wouldn't want to be at the mercy of the Disney buses for this. I think it's probably worth your money to hop on an Uber or a Lyft to get to the park just to make sure you get there in time. Okay, so the other strategy you can use is to do Avatar Flight of Passage right when the park closes. Hop in line like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the park closes, and you'll see a significantly smaller wait than Disney has posted typically. Disney might show the wait as being 2 hours, and you'll wait maybe an hour, somewhere in there normally, unless there's some kind of problem with the ride or if it's super busy. What people sometimes don't realize when they're doing a ride right before the park closes is that you're not going to have any FastPass people cutting in front of you at that time of day. So it really can work to your advantage if you get in line right before the park closes. The disadvantage of doing it at night, of course, is that you won't get to see Rivers of Light. I'm not a huge fan of Rivers of Light, so I don't feel like I'm missing much by skipping that. But, you know, your mileage may vary, so do with that what you will. Okay, so here are my 3 final Flight of Passage tips. Okay, first of all, if you're doing the rope drop strategy and you plan to rent a stroller from Disney, my advice is that if you're trying to get to Pandora, you skip the stroller rental at opening time and come back and get one later in the morning after you've had a chance to ride Avatar Flight of Passage. Every second counts when you're doing the walk to Avatar first thing in the morning, and by the time you wait in line and pay for a stroller, you could have added to your wait significantly. So tip number 1 is skip the stroller, come back and get it later. Tip number 2, if you're doing Avatar right at opening, is to stay to the right after you pass through the turnstiles. You'll notice that right after you pass through the turnstiles, you can either go left or right. If you stay to the right, you'll find a lot fewer people on the path. This is especially helpful for those of you that are fast walkers. You'll find that the left side is a lot more congested. And then once you start approaching the bridge to the Tree of Life, you can then merge over to the left because you're going to be making a sharp left as you turn into the Pandora section of the park. Okay, and then tip number 3, this is regardless of the time of day that you ride Avatar Flight of Passage. As you wind through the queue, you'll get to a point in the line where they will assign you to a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. My advice is if the cast member is asking you to get in line 4 or 5, that you ask if you can wait for 1, 2, or 3 instead. Lines 4 and 5 will lead to the lower section of the theater. It's like vertically stacked rows, kind of like Soarin'. You'll end up on the lowest row of the seating arrangement if you get in line 4 or 5. And in my opinion, the bottom row has a lot poorer view of the show than the top or middle row do. So ask for line 1, 2, or 3 when you get in the loading area. Okay, thanks for watching today. That about covers it. If you found this useful, go ahead and subscribe. We don't have a set publishing schedule, so turning on the bell notification will help you make sure you don't miss one of our videos with tips coming up in the future. Thanks. Have a great day.